Returning to our home of Tristram after the failed, bloody war against Westmarch, we're shocked to see the once thriving settlement is now a shadow of its former glory, seeking out the scattered remnants for clues on the obvious tragedy that befell the town. We first speak to a familiar face, Ogden, the tavern owner, who exclaims,
"Thank goodness you returned. Much has changed since you lived here, my friend. All was peaceful until the Dark Riders came and destroyed our village. Many were cut down where they stood, and those who took up arms were slain or dragged away to become slaves, or worse. The church at the edge of town has been desecrated and is being used for dark rituals. The screams that echo in the night are inhuman, but some of our townsfolk may yet survive. Follow the path that lies between my tavern and the blacksmith's shop to find the church and save who you can. Perhaps I can tell you more if we speak again. Good luck."
We know what we must do and head to the church by the edge of town, once a revered holy site, and steel ourselves to witnessing a foul desecration therein. The original bloody tale of the butcher can be started by approaching the wounded townsman just outside of the cathedral at the edge of Tristram.
Please, listen to me. The Archbishop Lazarus. He led us down here to find the lost prince. The bastard led us into a trap. Now everyone is dead, killed by a demon he called the Butcher. Avenge us! Find this butcher and slay him, so that our souls may finally rest.
Your death will be avenged.
Agreeing to take on this butcher and avenge the nameless townsman, we ready ourselves for the horrors ahead.
The sanctity of this place has been fouled.
And as with the final release, we hack through swaths of fallen skeletons and other hellspawn, making our way deeper in the cathedral to level 2, where the butcher's lair is rumoured to reside. However, to get the full scope of this quest, I think it's best we first head to the townsfolk of Tristram to see if they have any guiding words on how to fell this frightening foe. We first head to the innkeeper Ogden for rumours.
"Greetings, good master. Welcome to the Tavern of the Rising Sun. Farnham has mumbled something about a hulking brute who wielded a fierce weapon. I believe he called him a butcher."
Although he doesn't know much, our best lead seems to be, according to Ogden, Farnham, the drunk.
Can't a fellow drink in peace? Big cleaver, killing all my friends. Couldn't stop him. Had to run away. Couldn't save them. Trapped in a room with so many bodies. So many friends. No, you can't make me go back there. I won't let you take me. Too much pain. Too many dead. Can't get the blood out of my eyes. My mouth.
It's evident that this demon still haunts Farnham's memories, with his cries of lost friends and bodies strewn about. It's no wonder he tries to find solace in the drink and forget. A comfort we are not permitted, so we head to the resident scholar Deckard Cain for wisdom.
Seems that the Archbishop Lazarus goaded many of the townsmen into venturing into the labyrinth to find the king's missing son. He played upon their fears and whipped them into a frenzied mob. None of them were prepared for what lay within the cold earth. Lazarus abandoned them down there, left in the clutches of unspeakable horrors, to die.
So the treacherous Lazarus is in league with the demons. Maybe we need a more grounded strategy from a man who is well versed on steel cleaving flesh. So we head to Griswold, the blacksmith, to get his take.
"Well, what can I do for you?" "I saw what Farnham calls the Butcher, as it swathed a path through the bodies of my friends. He swung a cleaver as large as an axe, hewing limbs and cutting down brave men where they stood. I was separated from the fray by a host of small screeching demons, and somehow found the stairway leading out. I never saw that hideous beast again, but his blood-stained visage haunts me to this day."
It's chilling to think that this butcher has a pack of minions waiting down in his lair for us. We'll definitely need healing and supplies, and so we head to Pepin the Healer.
By the light I know of this vile demon, There were many that bore the scars of his wrath upon their bodies when the few survivors of the charge led by Lazarus crawled from the cathedral. I don't know what he used to slice open his victims, but it could not have been of this world. It left wounds festering with disease, and even I found them almost impossible to treat. Beware if you plan to battle this fiend.
Fantastic. Crawling out of the cathedral with wounds that won't heal, that's something to look forward to. Speaking of losing limbs, maybe Wirt knows something of this butcher.
I know more than you think about that grisly fiend. His little friends got a hold of me and managed to get my leg before Griswold pulled me out of that hole. I'll put it bluntly. Kill him before he kills you and adds your corpse to his collection.
I don't know what Wirt was doing in that cathedral, but that is such a morbid thought to think that the butcher's minions tore his leg off his body before he was saved.
Good day. How may I serve you? When Farnham said something about a butcher killing people, I immediately discounted it. But since you brought it up, maybe it is true.
Although Gillian thought it was just a fairy tale of the drunkard Farnham, everything points to this harrowing tale as being true, and that the townsfolk are unfortunately a part of this living nightmare. So, to fight evil, we want to consult somebody well versed in the darker arts and speak to Adria the Witch.
The butcher is a sadistic creature that delights in the torture and pain of others. You have seen his handiwork in the drunkard Farnham. His destruction will do much to ensure the safety of this village.
Adria agrees that killing this butcher is a net positive for the light. With that, we head back down to the cathedral, resolute in our duty to destroy this foul demon, not before giving one last final acknowledgement to the fallen townsmen before we head in.
Your death will be avenged.
After dealing with the scores of wicked demons doing their best to perish us prematurely, we finally happen upon what can only be described as the fabled Butcher's Lair. Adorned with corpses mounted on pikes, gore and flesh strewn about in an unholy decorative fashion as we steel ourselves and tepidly open the door to his lair. Nothing. No butcher rushing us, no familiar exclamation of, "Ah, fresh meat." Nothing. But what does that mean? Where has the butcher hidden? For answers and resupplies, we promptly head back to town. After heading to level 2, we see that Wirt has a new quest icon, and approaching him he says,
Here over, psst. Chamber Butcher, the from Spell Portal Town the cast. Saying am I what see?
Poor Wirt. We try and decipher his words further, to which he frustratedly states,
Get out it figured you haven't? Understand could you even so simple it make to try-die? Chamber Butcher, the from Spell Portal Town the cast.
This is curious. It's also started a further quest, the Butcher's Chamber, and we should find out what we can from the other townsfolk.
Wirt is talking backwards again? Oh, I hate it when he does that. I don't have time to help you decipher his riddle, but I will tell you one thing. Don't get involved with that rapscallion.
Despite Ogden's protest for us to not get involved, we do have a key clue. Wirt is talking backwards. Maybe Kane knows more.
You must have been speaking with Wirt. His is a sad story indeed. That poor child was taken into the labyrinth by the demons, ripped from the very arms of his mother, Canis. May her soul rest in peace. The boy managed to escape, but only after they had chewed off his leg, and he has not been quite sane since. He often speaks in riddles, but his knowledge of the labyrinth may hold some truth.
So it seems we learn of poor Wirt's fate once and for all, having lost his limb, and it seems his character wasn't going to be just a part grifter, but also half mad from the experience. Maybe having one rambling townsperson was enough, and with that, we should consult poor Farnham, who has also been touched by his experience with the butcher.
No, you can't make me go back there. I won't let you take me. Too much pain. Too many dead. Can't get the blood out of my eyes.
I don't even know what to say. This is one of the most disturbing voice lines in the entire game for me, and it's a shame that it was cut and that it happened to him. Heading to Pepin next, he says,
I suppose it isn't beyond the realm of possibility if you could bear being in that room again. Your description of the atrocities committed there would be enough to keep me far from it.
Pepin is right. The room seems to also be a key. Now, before I head back to work to decipher his hidden message, I should consult the other villagers.
I was with Farnham that night that Lazarus led us into the labyrinth. I never saw the Archbishop again, and I may not have survived if Farnham was not at my side. I fear that the attack left his soul as crippled as, well, another did my leg. I cannot fight this battle for him now. But I would if I could.
So, Farnham saved Griswold. It's funny how Gillian superficially writes Farnham off as a gibbering drunk, yet he saved the town's blacksmith, who in turn is actually pivotal for our own success. Speaking of Gillian the barmaid,
How could you even think of going back to that place?
unfortunately, we are headed back to that very place. Stocking up on supplies, we speak to Adria once more, who remarks,
The lair of the butcher is steeped in demonic power, and casting any spell of passage there could cause unexpected results.
So casting a spell of passage. This is starting to make more sense.
Get out, it figured you haven't! Understand, could you even so simple it make to try-die? Chamber butcher the from spell portal town the cast!
Listening to Wert's instructions once more, it is evident we must cast a town portal in the butcher's lair for unexpected results. We race back to the butcher's lair with the spell in hand and cast it to be met with an ominous red glowing portal, and we step in. House is burning and a decapitated body on the rocky floor. This can only be the true butcher's lair. Fighting our way through dozens of devilkin, we find the main room's door is barred.
Looks like it's rusted shut.
However, we search around and find Burning Dead guarding a switch in the northwestern room, unlocking the previously impassable main door. As we enter, we're also shown a cutscene of perhaps what awaits us in this lair. The door barred by Devilkin as we fight our way in, and then we hear the butcher's familiar line as he rushes us.
Fresh meat.
As the Beelzebub mod enhances enemies, the butcher boasts bloodlust and a severe knockback from his cleaver, which nearly cleaves us clean in two where we stand, and we back up to make sure that we take care of his minions before attempting to stand our ground, which in itself seems to be a mistake, as the butcher's hefts are swathed through armor and weapons alike and knocks us backwards through doors. Gone is the safety of the grates to protect us, as we used to lob arrows in the original game outside of harm's reach, and no stone curse scrolls in our inventory to try and make this quest easier. It looks like we're going to do this the hard way. The butcher hacking at us shows his bloodlust also nets him life replenish, making him a particularly nasty foe to burn down. Nevertheless, with persistence and a lot of chunks out of our hide, we finally put down the butcher.
The spirits of the dead are now avenged.
As the butcher gasps its last breath, Aiden claims that the spirits of his victims are avenged. On his body we find random loot, being an unidentified spiked club, short sword, and his infamous unique cleaver, which is a very powerful weapon at this level. With that and looting the rest of his lair, we promptly leave to identify and equip our newly found loot. Although we have somewhat aided the deceased victims of the butcher, I cannot help but think of the living. Poor Farnham, driven to the drink, as Griswold hopelessly looks on, and Gillian turning her nose down at it. But more sad is the effects that it's had on Wirt, now that we know who's ripped from his mother's arms, and his leg was gnawed clean off the bone.
Please, you must hurry. Every hour that passes brings us closer to having no water to drink. We cannot survive for long without your help.
After witnessing the horrors that lie inside the labyrinth just below Tristram's Cathedral and returning to town for the first time for healing and respite, we pause briefly and notice the water in the center of town has turned a disturbing brown and is unmistakably tainted. Curious, we see Pepin, the healer, for answers, who pleads,
I'm glad I caught up to you in time. Our wells have become brackish and stagnant, and some of the townspeople have become ill drinking from them. Our reserves of fresh water are quickly running dry. I believe that there is a passage that leads to the springs that serve our town. Please find what has caused this calamity, or we all will surely perish.
Water being a vital resource to human survival. Is this fouling of the water an act of war to weaken the town, or has something tainted the water itself? We seek out the scholar Deckard Kane by the stagnant pool, who shares.
I don't know what I can really tell you about this that will be of any help. The water that fills our wells comes from an underground spring. I have heard of a tunnel that leads to a great lake. Perhaps they are one and the same. Unfortunately, I do not know what would cause our water supply to be tainted.
Well, at least we know what we're looking for. A tunnel and a great lake. Perhaps the man most acquainted with liquid in town, Farnham the Drunk, has some words of wisdom on the matter.
You drink water?
Touche. We trudge back through to the center of town, feeling a mite parched in the heat of Griswold the blacksmith's forge, as he relays,
Pepin has told ye the truth. We will need fresh water badly, and soon. I've tried to clear one of the smaller wells, but it reeks of stagnant filth. It must be getting clogged at the source.
Clogged at the source. I don't like to imagine what the clogger is, but a demon's hide would be enough to taint any form of purity. We head next to the tavern owner and supplier of food and drink, Ogden, for a status report, and he says,
I have always tried to keep a large supply of foodstuffs and drink in our storage cellar, but with the entire town having no source of fresh water, even our stores will soon run dry. Please, do what you can, or I don't know what we will do.
I fear if we don't purify the water source soon, the town will be weakened beyond repair. That and Farnham will probably drink through Ogden's mead in a matter of minutes if he catches wind of this. It's then we turn to the barmaid Gillian, standing out front of her grandmother's house, and she entreats.
My grandmother is very weak, and Garda says that we cannot drink the water from the wells. Please, can you do something to help us?
It seems it's already begun. Wasting no time, we raced past Wirt for any kernel of information which he shares.
For once, I'm with you. My business runs dry, so to speak, if I have no market to sell to. You better find out what is going on, and soon.
Agreed. A last stop before searching out the passage lie with the witch, Adria, in a small shack at the edge of town. As if anticipating our arrival, she stands, hands on hips, and remarks before we ask.
People of Tristram will die if you cannot restore fresh water to their wells. Know this, demons are at the heart of this matter, but they remain ignorant of what they have spawned.
So it is demons, as we feared. But Adria has somehow divined that they are ignorant of their doing. This may work to our advantage, as they would no doubt be lax in their defenses if they are indeed unaware of the devastation the simple act of withholding water to humans has wrought. With no time to lose, we head back into the second level of the cathedral, mind racing with the thought of what exactly could have tainted the town well. On the second level of the cathedral, we fight through a myriad of enemies actively trying to bar our path, including ghouls, fiends, hidden, and scavengers. Close to the pile of bodies we leave in our wake, in the northeastern side of the room lie a waypoint, and next to it a wall that has been eroded and what appears to be a tunnel inside. Upon entering the tunnel, we see infrastructure of wood beams holding up the small cavern as if it were man-made. We move then northeast and are greeted in a large opening revealing the blood-orange devilkin and their carver brethren waiting in the shadows to strike. A silent confirmation we are pressing in the right direction. Heading northeast into the narrow shaft are more fallen, and curiously, aided by the weakest of the Khazra, the Flesh Clan Goatmen. But what are they doing here? As we ponder the question and move up the main tunnel, we make out through the barely lit rocky facade the shapes of about a score of fallen fiends. Although their hooked swords and pointed spears could easily drop us where we stand, their cowardly disposition sees them flee every time we ourselves strike down one of their carver kin. After the fallen are no more a score, but instead dripping ichor underfoot, we step through the gore and head into a large central cavern and see a lake of putrid yellow that flows in the middle of the room, glowing in an unnatural hue, attracting the ambling denizens therein. No doubt, once the river that fed into the well. As we cut a swath through the remaining fallen and goatmen, we notice a unique Khazra archer slinging arrows from the lip of the cavernous creek. Stalking him down as he retreats, we see his body oozes with open wounds, and bright blood drips from his flesh. Known as Ramak, the Poisoner, his accursed hide must be, at least partially, responsible for the tainting of the waters below. Giving Ramak no quarter, we clench our mace tight, dodging arrows as we beat his horned head in, and blue fluid sprays from his fallen frame. Curiously, the blood matches the river's true waters as the sickness begins to abate, seemingly demonic impermanence rather than a physical taint. With Ramak fallen, we acquire the axe off his corpse and make our way topside to relay the findings to Pepin the Healer once more. In town, we take a brief stop by the well in the thoroughfare and see that indeed the taint has subsided. Witnessing the change, Pepin beckons to us and adulates.
What's that you say? The mere presence of the demons has caused the water to become tainted? Oh, truly a great evil lurks beneath our town, but your perseverance and courage gives us hope. Please, take this ring. Perhaps it will aid you in the destruction of such vile creatures.
With that, the town again has access to fresh water, and we receive a unique ring of truth from Pepin, and are curious to its properties, taking it to Kane, who identifies it for us for a fee, as it boasts plus 10 hit points, minus 1 damage from enemies, and plus 10% resist all. A great ring to be sure, as we will take any aid in our quest to uncover the lurking evil below the cathedral. However, we fear that the stagnant stew in a well is the least of the town of Tristram's worries in the coming days. This is the story of the curse of King Leoric and the quest's original appearance in Diablo 1. After initially returning to the decimated town of Tristram and witnessing the horrors that befell the townspeople underneath the once holy site of the cathedral, we emerge from the monastery's second level in need of respite, and it's then that we're waved down by Ogden, the tavern owner, who finally reveals the fate of our father, the once beloved King Leoric, and our brother Prince Albrecht, two names no man has dared to utter in our presence until now.
The village needs your help, good master. Some months ago, King Leoric's son, Prince Albrecht, was kidnapped. The king went into a rage and scoured the village for his missing child. With each passing day, Leoric seemed to slip deeper into madness. He sought to blame innocent townsfolk for the boy's disappearance and had them brutally executed. Less than half of us survived his insanity. The king's knights and priests tried to placate him, but he turned against them and, sadly, they were forced to kill him. With his dying breath, the king called down a terrible curse upon his former followers. He vowed that they would serve him in darkness forever. This is where things take an even darker twist than I thought possible. Our former king has risen from his eternal sleep and now commands a legion of undead minions within the labyrinth. His body was buried in a tomb 3 levels beneath the cathedral. Please, good master, put his soul at ease by destroying his now cursed form.
What foul black magic is this? The Leoric we knew was a benevolent ruler beloved by his people. None of this makes sense. We swear we shall find our younger brother and make a beeline to the town's aging scholar, Deckard Cain, standing by his familiar well, hoping he can shed light on what madness took our once pious father and led to the tragedy that befell our family and the entire town of Tristram.
Ah, the story of our king, is it? The tragic fall of Leoric was a harsh blow to this land. The people always loved the king, and now they live in mortal fear of him. The question that I keep asking myself is how he could have fallen so far from the light, as Leoric had always been the holiest of men. Only the vilest powers of hell could so utterly destroy a man from within.
I noticed that neither Ogden nor Cain called Leoric our father. Whatever demonic influence that holds him must be great if they dare not utter our relation in fear of evoking a wretched curse. Or worse, maybe dare relive a memory of a better time. We then head next to the blacksmith Griswold by his forge, and he shares.
I made many of the weapons and most of the armour that King Leoric used to outfit his knights. I even crafted a huge two-handed sword of the finest mithril for him, as well as a field crown to match. I still can't believe how he died. But it must have been some sinister force that drove him insane!
A mithril two-handed sword, which is half the weight of steel and a fine weapon. But a crown to battle? Whatever Leoric's foe, it sounds like he wanted to face it in the light and on the battlefield. Far from the light and the ears of others, we search out Farnham, now colloquially known as the town drunk, as he's plopped by his favourite rock, Farnham being a once decent warrior and loyal subject to the crown. We tepidly broach the subject of the Skeleton King, and Farnham scoffs.
I don't care about that. Listen, no skeleton is gonna be my king. Leoric is king. King! So you hear me? Hail to the king!
We almost envy Farnham's denial of what's transpired and even his rum-soaked stupor. However, we press on and see Pepin the healer outside his hut, who expounds.
The loss of his son was too much for King Leoric. I did what I could to ease his madness, but in the end, it overcame him. A black curse has hung over this kingdom from that day forward. But perhaps, if you were to free his spirit from his earthly prison, the curse would be lifted.
Of all the people to deal with this, why me? They won't even look us in the eye, let alone acknowledge our shared heritage. Maybe they have good reason to be afraid, and I'm the only ignorant fool left in this town. We then turn to Gillian the barmaid out front of her grandma's hut, and she says,
I don't like to think about how the king died. I like to remember him for the kind and just ruler that he was. His death was so sad and seemed very wrong somehow.
Thankful for the true memory of our father to be recalled just once more before we face down the horrors inside the crypt. On our way out of town, we seek out the wisdom of children as Wirt, the peg-legged boy, eyes us from his tree and states flatly,
Look, I'm running a business here. I don't sell information, and I don't care about some king that's been dead longer than I've been alive. If you need something to use against this king of the undead, then I can help you out.
We pause for a moment, shocked at the title, King of the Undead, the King of Condorus. We momentarily regain our composure and cast our eye to the shack on the outskirts of town. Perhaps Adria the witch and her dark arts are familiar with our father's curse, to which she greets us in front of the shack and says,
The dead who walk among the living follow the cursed king. He holds the power to raise yet more warriors for an ever-growing army of the undead. If you do not stop his reign, he will surely march across this land and slay all who still live here.
So, this unholy Skeleton King, Leoric, naught but in name, has the power to raise the undead, granting him subjects in death, standing in stark contrast against what he stood for in life. Grim tidings indeed. This doesn't sound like our father at all, but a curse that we must abolish. We steel our resolve, unsure what to expect as we bury our emotions deep within lest they betray us as we head into the depths of the cathedral once more. Down in level 3, we're met with a score of demons, varying in type from scavengers, undead archers with their flaming arrows, the ever-cowardly fallen, jabbing and shrieking with their spears, and the disappearing hidden, led by a unique called Moondrinker. As we fell his brethren and stalk down Moondrinker once slain, we spy near his corpse an unfamiliar tomb. Its entrance guarded by 2 solemn statues representing the fallen Leoric. This is, no doubt, where the bones of our father lay. We apprehensively step inside and hear a voice that says,
The warmth of life has entered my tomb. Prepare yourself, mortal, to serve my master for eternity.
Our greatest fear was that our father was somehow behind the misfortunes of the town. However, that fades. This skeleton king doesn't recognize us as his son at all. All it sees is another potential minion for its ever-growing army of the undead, and this elusive master it speaks of. We know what we have to do, and with a bone-crushing mace in hand, we step further inside the tomb. As we push forward, we rush the archers, only to see their kin are safely hidden behind a grate. Yet deftly, we hear the twang of their bowstrings that rain down arrows upon us from the safety of their nest. Frustrated, we turn to the western door and kick it in looking for an alternate path. Again, we are met with burning dead and a corpse bow. Once fallen, we check the crypt, but it's not Leoric's. However, there is a lever by it that reveals dead switches to open the grate. Backtracking into the main area, we destroy burning skeleton captains. As we head into the main chamber, filled with undead, we spy a tomb, no doubt of the Skeleton King in the middle of the room, and behind it moves forward the largest skeleton we've ever seen, at least twice as big as any man, wielding a mithril sword of unholy heft, as well as a breast of armor and a crown atop its head, raising allies casually as it stalks forward and swings its sword at us as its minions attempt to corner us. We make a dash for the archers first, hacking frantically as we sidestep his army, but are caught in the southeast corner by a sarcophagus. There the king presses his attack, raising minions as we desperately try to fell them. We're only saved by the sheer brute force of his sword as it makes contact with our shield, knocking us back, and we retreat and pick off his minions one by one. When we finally face the Skeleton King, we think it's on our terms, but we're now badly fatigued and out of options as we start to frantically heal, but to no avail as we realize he possesses the ability of vampirism and is drawing life with every blow he rains down on us. He does not slow with his cold, calculated swinging of his sword. His minions trickle into the fray and fall again, resurrected by their dark master. And it's clear that our soft, fallible flesh is a weakness the skeleton army does not share. Forced to flee, we hear the Skeleton King gleefully resurrect the undead in our wake, almost mockingly awaiting our return. We make a beeline for town and see Pepin for much needed healing, greedily buying up his potions as this is our only option at this point to weather Leoric's attacks and out-heal his sickening vampirism. We turn to Ogden, who's standing by Pepin, and he says,
I told you, good master. The king was entombed 3 levels below. He's down there, waiting in the putrid darkness for his chance to destroy this land.
We have no doubt in our minds that Ogden's right. If we do not fell Leoric, Tristram will be overrun in a matter of days. With refreshed weaponry, potions, we head back down to the tomb to face the Skeleton King, Leoric, once more. Once inside the tomb, Leoric refuses to relent for even a second, barreling down on us with his newly raised minions, and although we are well stocked, he still has surprises in store. We realize his vampirism not only drains life, but also magicka as well. There is no portaling out of here. and we're forced once again to face him on his terms in a war of attrition. As he swings down his massive mithril sword, it bites into our shield, and his skeleton minions rise over and over to aid him in his attack. Becoming weary from his assault once again, our attention flickers and we see his unrelenting vampirism will sap us of our strength if we're not vigilant. Thirstily gulping down Pepin's potions between frantic swings of our mace, we finally beat down the Skeleton King's offense with our own bashing of our mace, and we say, without even thinking,
Rest well, Leoric. I'll find your son.
Strange. Even forced to face our own father as the ghoulish visage of his former self, we don't even allow our emotions to get the better of us for a second, as we sense we are being watched by an even more malevolent force, delighting in our macabre mission, hoping that we will break. After announcing we will find Ulbricht, we search Leoric's tomb further, freeing bodies crucified that were littered about and finding his own guarded treasure in a northern room. With a few unique items under our belt, we move to leave the tomb, but then we realize got to check Leoric himself. On his skeletal corpse, we see what Griswold had spoken of, his glorious field crown. Our birthright by all accounts, but more so a symbol of the righteous man Leoric once was. With the crown in hand, we head back to town and see Ogden once more, who says,
The curse of our king is past, but I fear that it was only part of a greater evil at work. However, we may yet be saved from the darkness that consumes our land, for your victory is a good omen. May light guide you on your way, good master.
We acknowledge Ogden's words and pray we have freed our father Leoric once and for all from his eternal misery and damnation. Let the light be merciful, as our family and the town of Tristram has suffered enough. Seeing Cain quickly, we toss him the crown, and he tells us that indeed it would grant us the boon of 5 points of lifesteal on our own enemies. Although we wouldn't wear the crown in the best of times, let alone when such misery has befallen the land, as it seems ostentatious, we do, however, place the field crown on our head as a sign that we will pick up where our good father Leoric left off before he had succumbed to evil, and that we too shall battle the greater darkness Ogden spoke of. Proud to be Aidan, son of Leoric, and prince of Condoras. After returning from the third level of Tristram's Cathedral and heading into town, the tavern owner Ogden, looking befuddled, apprehensively approaches us, relaying a puzzling tale.
Master, I have a strange experience to relate. I know that you have a great knowledge of those monstrosities that inhabit the labyrinth, and this is something that I cannot understand for the very life of me. I was awakened during the night by a scraping sound just outside of my tavern. When I looked out from my bedroom, I saw the shapes of small demon-like creatures in the inn yard. After a short time they ran off, but not before stealing the sign to my inn. I don't know why the demons would steal my sign, but leave my family in peace. 'Tis strange, no?
Demons stealing a sign? But why? Surely that kind of petty theft is below even a demon and more in line with a bored youth. Still, we do not discount his story so quickly and begin to canvass the town for clues, starting with his barmaid, Gillian, standing in her grandmother's doorway, who says,
Oh my, is that where the sign went? My grandmother and I must have slept right through the whole thing. Thank the light that those monsters didn't attack the inn.
Thank the light indeed. To think children have been dragged into the labyrinth in the middle of the night, but a sign? Speaking of children, we spy Wirt, the peg-legged boy, a few paces from us, eavesdropping, and question.
What? Is he saying I took that? I suppose that Griswold is on his side too. Look, I got over simple sign stealing months ago. You can't turn a profit on a piece of wood.
Well, I actually wasn't thinking Wirt could hobble away in time, but he did just admit to pilfering signs but a few months back. Maybe his goal to whisk Gillian away from this accursed town was put him on the mostly straight and narrow path. Or maybe he got his grubby little fingers on that sign and we should shake a confession out of him. Holding back from a darker path, though Wirt does like to push us, we then see Pepin the healer and ask if he saw anything. And he exclaims,
My goodness, demons running about the village at night, pillaging our homes. Is nothing sacred? I hope that Ogden and Garda are all right. I suppose that they would come to see me if they were hurt.
We're just glad everyone is okay. Mostly everyone. Maybe the wild card, Farnham the Drunk, has secretly had his eye on the sign for being locked out of the mead hall one too many times. It seems it's time for our toughest quest yet. Interrogate a sauced-up Farnham. We lean down to his head height and feel a brewery-like waft hit us and whisper, "Tell us where the sign is, Farnham."
You know what I think? Somebody took that sign. They're gonna want lots of money for it. If I was Ogden, well, I'm not, but if I was, I'd just buy a new sign with some pretty drawing on it. Maybe a nice mug of ale, or a piece of cheese.
Well, okay. Standing up, we reassess. Note to self. It wasn't Farnham. Second, buy some cheese and ale. Damn, Farnham really sells the dream there. Perhaps we need the grounded wisdom of the scholar Deckard Cain, who is just a few feet from the scene of the crime, but he too puzzles.
I see that this strange behavior puzzles you as well. I would surmise that since many demons fear the light of the sun and believe that it holds great power, it may be that the rising sun depicted on the sign you speak of has led them to believe that it too holds some arcane powers. Perhaps they are not all as smart as we had feared.
Really? So that's why demons only scurry about at night. And I thought it was their cowardice, but this makes perfect sense. That the light itself offends their senses, yet causes a twisted reverence for what they fear. We shall no doubt find out soon enough. Before we head out of town, we briskly speak to Griswold the blacksmith, who himself scoffs.
Demons stole Ogdens Sign, you say? That doesn't sound much like the atrocities I've heard of, or seen. Demons are concerned with ripping out your heart, not your signpost.
Look, Griswold, we're on the same page. Demons have slaughtered half the village recently, and sending a scout party for a sign sounds almost demented. Certainly absurd, but if there is anyone who may understand the inner workings of demons, it's Adria the Witch. And we head to her shack on the outskirts of town, and she comments,
No mortal can truly understand the mind of the demon. Never let their erratic actions confuse you, as that too may be their plan.
Wow, we are now officially more confused than ever, uncertain of anything or if Adria isn't a demon cooking up a spell thanks to her little Freudian slip. Mentally, we mark her name down as a suspect just under words and head back into the labyrinth, still in quiet disbelief anybody could think it was a demon to source this errant sign. Down by level 4, we do happen across a curious sight, an overlord loitering by a structure that appears to lead to the catacombs below. And as we contend with the brute and its companion, a unique skeleton, Mad Eye the Dead, as well as a hidden watching the commotion from the sidelines. But what is an overlord doing on this level? Wrestling with the thought and unopposed, we round the corner and see a lone Dark One leader named Snotspill in front of a grate barring the entrance to the catacombs. Although the walls are bloody and he is armed, he doesn't attack us. And more astonishingly, he can speak.
Hey, you that one that kill all. You get me magic banner or we attack. You no live with life. You kill big uglies and give back magic. Go past corner and door, find uglies. You give, you go.
It sounds like Cain was actually right, and they believe it was a magical artifact, worshipped for its sun properties. We decide to query the fallen once more, but he simply states,
You kill uglies. Get banner. You bring to me or else.
Although a solo Dark One isn't too much of a threat, we do want that banner back, and clearly something much stronger safeguards the aforementioned treasure. If only Ogden were here to see this. On the northern side of the structure, we find an opening with a gaggle of overlords lying in wait. They do fit the description of big ugly, and clearly they think they're sitting on a bountiful treasure with how vehemently they guard the room. Sure enough, the last of their kin stands guard by a chest that is no doubt their coveted treasure. We manage to bash his flabby frame in and open the chest, which reveals Ogdens' cumbersome sign. Making room to heft it back to town, we see the familiar rising sun intact and the bottom of the sign damaged as it's been haphazardly ripped from its resting place. However, we are confronted now with two very distinct choices to make. The first is to return the sign to Ogden. However, the amiable Snotspill did encourage us threateningly to bring him his magic banner, which is actually possible. So, questionably, we throw our lot in with the burning hells and head back to the Dark One leader, where he excitedly exclaims,
You give? Yes, good. Go now. We strong. We kill all with big magic.
Unfortunately, Snotspill, mad with sign power, has a throng of Dark Ones lying in wait behind a false wall, which rush us as our reward. Spurred on by their newly acquired light-based vigor, but luckily for us, they still scatter in cowardice if their brethren fall in battle. So we slay Snotspill, and the way to the catacombs is open to us. However, this will end the quest, and not really satisfactorily. We can't now surface the town and reveal to Ogden we tried throwing our lot in with the Dark Ones, which is probably for the best, but we also forgo a reward. So, if instead, when we get the sign, we don't see Snotspill and return to Ogden in town, he says,
Oh, we didn't have to bring back my sign, but I suppose that it does save me the expense of having another one made. Well, let me see. What could I give you as a fee for finding it? What have we here? Oh, yes. This cap was left in one of the rooms by a magician who stayed here some time ago. Perhaps it may be of some value to you.
Although not much of a magician, the cap Harlequin's crest is a formidable helm. Kane, the scholar, then reveals the cap does impart +2 to all attributes, armor class -3, -1 damage from enemies, +7 hit points, and +7 mana. A strong contender for a mage, but you'd likely shatter like glass with a half-decent hit. It's not for a warrior, we think. And so we make our way back down to where Snotspill stands and confront him, signless. Even without their totem in their possession, the wrath of Snotspill and his minions does not wane, but their fate still remains the same.
Not enough mana.
As they fall, our path is now clear, and we finally make our way into the noxious catacombs below.
That stench. Is it me? Or are there zombies down here?
Still waiting for you to bring me that stone from the heavens. I know that I can make something powerful out of it.
After fighting through the wretched droves of undead beneath the cathedral's 4th level, back in town, we're beckoned over by Griswold, the blacksmith, for aid.
Stay for a moment. I have a story you might find interesting. A caravan that was bound for the Eastern Kingdoms passed through here some time ago. It was supposedly carrying a piece of the heavens that had fallen to earth. The caravan was ambushed by cloaked riders just north of here along the roadway. I searched the wreckage for this sky rock, but it was nowhere to be found. If you should find it, I believe that I can fashion something useful from it.
There are tales of powerful factions to the east, no doubt coveting a boon, such as a supposed sky rock, but cloaked riders whisking it away under the guise of night sounds like it has fallen into the clutches of the burning hells. Curious, we ask the townsfolk of anything they've heard of late, starting with Adria the witch.
The Heaven Stone is very powerful, and were it any but Griswold who bid you find it, I would prevent it. He will harness its powers, and its use will be for the good of us all.
We understand that this rock must be honed for good, but what type of power would have Adria forbid anybody bar Griswold use it? Speaking of trustworthy, we see Farnham the drunk and query him on the matter despite his befuddled state, and he reveals,
I used to have a nice ring. It was a really expensive one. With blue and green and red and silver. Don't remember what happened to it, though. I really miss that ring.
That's great. You had a ring, but what about Skyrocks? Seeking further clues, we then turn to the town elder, Deckard Cain, who says,
Griswold speaks of the Heaven Stone that was destined for the Enclave located in the east. It was being taken there for further study. This stone glowed with an energy that somehow granted vision beyond that which a normal man could possess. I do not know what secrets it holds, my friend, but finding this stone would certainly prove most valuable.
Heavenstone? We knew the rock was from the sky, but a stone that grants a seer-like vision? No wonder this meteorite is so coveted. But why now? Would the heavens impart such a valuable stone? Pondering this, we then see Pepin the Healer, who warns,
I don't know what it is they thought they could see with that rock, but I will say this. If rocks are falling from the sky, you had better be careful.
Well, that's some Farnham-level insight there, Pep. Running out of leads, we then seek out Wirt, the peg-legged boy, by his familiar tree, who admits,
If anyone can make something out of that rock, Griswold can. He knows what he is doing. And as much as I try to steal his customers, I respect the quality of his work.
Wow. In the midst of a war for the very soul of Tristram, Wirt just thinks of profit. Next we speak to Gillian the barmaid, curious if she's heard any rumours in the tavern, and she recalls,
Well, a caravan of some very important people did stop here, but that was quite a while ago. They had strange accents and were starting on a long journey, as I recall. I don't see how you could hope to find anything that they would have been carrying.
Strange accents? We don't know where in the east they could take this skyrock for study further, but the famous mage clans of the east could very well be the victims of the riders. Lastly, we see Ogden, the tavern owner, about the caravan, and he says,
Caravan stopped here to take on some supplies for their journey to the east. I sold them quite an array of fresh fruits and some excellent sweetbreads that Garda had just finished baking. Shame what happened to them.
Well, we can take some solace knowing that their last meal was sweet. Unfortunately, demons are probably feasting on their sweetbreads as we speak. With that, we know what we have to do. Find this coveted skyrock of the heavens in the cathedral before it falls into the hands of a demon adept at utilizing its rumored heavenly powers for evil. Down in the catacombs below the cathedral, after wading through the scores of undead and demons alike, we find in the eastern part of the level a large room filled with skeletons, shadow beasts, glooms, and even moonmen archers are gathered together in what seems to be reverence for a large rock sitting atop a pedestal. After clearing the room and stalking down the last of the horror archers, we get a closer look at the object and proclaim,
This must be what Griswold wanted.
Hefting the girthy magic rock into our inventory, it looks to be nothing that we've actually seen before, and although we know it holds great power, it seems like just another rock. Although looks are no doubt deceiving, we head back to Griswold, lugging the rock from the gloomy catacombs, and he states,
Let me see that. Aye, it is as I believed. Give me a moment. Here you are. I arranged pieces of the stone within a silver ring that my father left me. I hope it serves you well.
Taken aback, Griswold has not only fashioned the invaluable stone into a piece of functional jewelry for our fight against the Hells, but also set it into his father's ring. And we then see Cain about its properties, and he tells us it's an Empyrean band, which holds +2 to all attributes, plus 20% light radius, faster hit recovery, and absorbs half trap damage. Although we may not see the future, it is at least brighter knowing that the forces of hell will not hold the Skyrock's power as long as we have a hand in the matter. We are secretly astonished that somehow Farnham the Drunk, who we had instantly dismissed, had divined that this was indeed a ring of sea. Maybe he holds true sight, or maybe the light works in mysterious ways. While exploring the 4th level of the cathedral, we're assaulted by 2 skeletons guarding a sarcophagus. Although the plundered tomb only reveals a paltry few coins, we see a room to the south. Breaking through reveals a unique Flesh Clan goatman, as a smattering of enemies amble forward from the darkness below. After contending with the trio, we are free to turn to the fleshy Khazra, who surprisingly begs.
Please, no hurt, no kill. Keep alive, and next time good bring to you.
What trickery is this? Wary of deception, we raise our sword to the goatman's throat, and he further pleads.
Nothing yet. Almost done. Very powerful, very strong. Live, live, no pain, and promise I keep.
Although our initial instinct is to cut down this Garbhad the Weak without a second thought, something stays our hand. Curiosity, perhaps, or perhaps the desperation in his voice was too honest for a demon. Pondering out newly uncharted waters, we clear out the room further. Garbhad again makes no move to stop us killing his kin. Opening the door below to a library, we're licked by a long line of lightning, nearly falling before the dozen or so fallen get their chance to try their own hand at the matter. After killing the fallen, we gather up an invaluable book of Town Portal and Scroll of Healing before leaving the room. We cautiously check in with Garbhad, who then promises,
Something for you I am making. Again, not kill Garbhad. Live and give good. You'll take this as proof I keep word.
It's then, remarkably, he gives us a full health potion, 616 gold, and an enchanted cape. Confused at the bounty in hand, we portal back to town, curious as to what the townsfolk have to make of this. Seeing the elder Deckard Cain about the cape, he identifies that it indeed imparts +1 to dexterity and has no hidden curse or ill effects. No other townsfolk though seem to have heard of talking demons, though that doesn't stop Griswold the blacksmith from embellishing about Axe's effect on errant demons.
The axe? Aye, that's a good weapon. Balanced against any foe. Look how it cleaves the air. And then imagine a nice fat demon head in its path. Keep in mind, however, that it is slow to swing. But talk about dealing a heavy blow!
With nothing really learnt about this phenomena, we then confront Garbhad a final time about his promised item. Guard half down as he greets us delightedly and says,
This too good for you. Very powerful. You want, you take.
Treachery. Garbhad then lunges at us, proving he was deceptively fast all along. As his mace rains down blows atop our shield, we are taken aback and look for better footing, but every time we think we have his rhythm clocked, he spins, catching us hard in the midsection with his mace. Fatigued, we move for the room below, opening a town portal in our wake, hoping to confuse the goatman as we catch our breath and down some much-needed healing potions. But Garbhad doesn't relent. He stalks through the door on his putrid hooves as we deliver the final blow to the ghastly goat and utter.
I'm not impressed.
On Garbhad's corpse, we find a yellow belt and realize his body blows have our own sash in tatters. Providence, maybe, as we portal back to town to see the belt's properties before celebrating. It's then Cain identifies it as the Bitter Chain, with enhanced armor and +4 to dexterity, a boon for our defenses and replaces our cloth belt, but a bitter reminder to never trust a demon, especially the wretched goat men.
I fear that the worms could soon overrun the village. Just the thought of those slimy beasts oozing into my house makes me want to be ill. Please, rid us of them.
Once the player has entered level 5 of the Cathedral, if you head back to town and approach Pepin, the healer, he pleads.
Good hero, a moment of your time, please. While attending one of the townsfolk who had taken quite ill, I noticed something odd about his home. There were strange sounds and a sickly sweet smell rising from the cellar. Thinking perhaps these fumes had something to do with his sickness, I investigated. In his cellar were monstrous worms shifting and squirming up from the underground. I beg of you, slay these creatures before they can make their way into the town. I left the door to his house open for you. It is the one opposite of mine.
It seems only a matter of time before the forces of hell made its way into Tristram. But worms? What a wretched thought. Worms burrowing under the town and just across from Pepin's house, no less. As we venture closer, we see indeed the door is open, the light is on, but no sign of slithering foes about. Before we head inside, I think it's best we talk to some of the townsfolk who may be better versed in extermination. So we head to the town scholar, Deckard Cain, who says,
Worms that rise up from the ground? Many of the ancient writings speak of poisonous insects and foul creatures of the skies and seas plaguing mankind. It is no surprise that the very earth would offer up a similar peril now that the denizens of the underworld are upon us.
This is a very real-world biblical take on the plague that has fell upon Tristram, although it doesn't give us much in terms of a solution. Luckily, however, Griswold meanders over during our conversation to give us his take on the events.
I see no such things in my shop, but I will keep a close watch for them. Perhaps if they come this way, they won't take kindly to the fires of my forge.
I'm glad that Griswold is unfazed and vigilant at the thought of slithering worms underneath foot. Now let's hope his forge can stave them off and they are not fire resistant. With that, we head to an unlikely ally who would have trouble with his wooden legs' lack of equilibrium if besieged by worms. Wirt, the peg-legged boy, who says,
They have you hunting worms now? What's next? Leaf collecting? Picking up mushrooms? Look, friend, you have a whole church full of demons over there to worry about. I don't see how a few little worms could be so bad.
While I agree with Wirt's initial assessment that worms don't sound bad compared to the legions of the burning hells, nevertheless, these worms pose a direct threat to Tristram and its residents. Also noted is his wry reference to collecting mushrooms, which refers to a level 9 quest, Black Mushroom. Speaking of food, we should see what's cooking with Gillian the barmaid.
Wait, before you say anything, my grandmother had a dream with giant slithering creatures in it. She also saw Pepin running from a house in the town. Do you think this means anything?
I plumb forgot about Gillian's unseen grandmother in Diablo 1, seemingly with visions that are somewhat accurate. I wish we could consult her more directly for clues. With only a few people left to see, we head to Ogden about these worms and find out how his cellar, stocked full of food which has been vital to the town's survival, has been faring.
That sounds quite disgusting, and I am afraid that I haven't heard anything about any worms. Perhaps Cain, the storyteller, could be of some help.
Ogden, quite abrupt as usual these days, has a cold lead as we've also spoken to Cain already. But what about the saucy drunkard known as Farnham to the side of his tavern?
Listen. I don't even like worms. Don't tell me about your worms. I don't want your worms. Nope. No thanks. No worms for me.
Wow. Yep. The feeling is mutual, Farnham. Leaving the town drunk to retch in our wake as we head northeast out of town to a shack owned by Adria the Witch, hopefully for some worm extermination guidance.
Seek out the domicile to which Pepin the Healer has directed you. It is there that your missions will become clear and your methods evident.
It seems Adria trusts us to figure it out, as our task is pretty straightforward. Head for the infested home, and the solution, supposedly, will become clear. So we do just that. Approaching the eerily lit residence once more, we cautiously step inside. What foul work is this? It's quickly evident the worms have been busy burrowing far and wide under the town itself. With thick tunnels, at least 3 to 5 men wide, this dungeon mimics the caves below the cathedral. It's just past the entrance we spy an errant worm patrolling. We wait until it's closer to assess what the threat is, and also before it can alert its brethren. This creature seems more of a snake in appearance and mirrors the azure drake, if anything, although the lair itself is somewhat fashioned like Juriel's lair, later seen in Diablo 2 aesthetically, and may have been an inspiration, as many of the cut quests in Diablo 1 turn out to be inspiration for Diablo 2 quests. That remains to be seen. Hacking our way through a score of these worms, spelled more aptly in the sense of a mythical dragon with a Y instead of the house variety O, we are set upon many that await in their hidden facades and false passages as they attempt to ambush us repeatedly, spitting acid and surrounding us in hopes we perish prematurely in their den of evil beneath the earth. Slogging our way deeper into the maze with many dead ends, hidden ambushes, and worms aplenty, we finally spy what seems to be their ringleader, War Maggot, the Mad. Girt by a gaggle of groupies, he rushes us in the midst of his kin. Although, once we kill him and the remainder of the worms, Aiden remarks, "The town is safe from this foul spawn." It was somewhat muffled due to the commotion the worms were making.
The town is safe from these foul spawn.
Now, with a new yellow sword and cloak, we head back to Deckard Cain to identify the loot and grade its value, as it seems our task is finally being completed. The cloak itself turns out to be a gold item. Batskin's Cape, a cool name for a cloak, although its attributes are -6 the strength, increased armor 6, fire hit damage 3 to 6, plus 29% faster hit recovery and 9% faster walk speed. The stats are definitely not a boon for a warrior, and a bit all over the shop, though admittedly I wouldn't mind the faster walk speed, something I pine for after playing Diablo's successors. The yellow sword, named Rift Scythe, boasts plus 28 cold resist and light radius increase 17%. Nothing to write home about, unfortunately, as the Butcher's Cleaver at level 2 would outpace this tiny stabber. With that, we head back to Pepin for an update on the quest, who thanks us and says,
"Once again you have saved this humble town from the encroaching evil. We are, as always, forever in your debt."
Kind words from Pepin, but concerning is this quest. Why haven't the denizens of hell poured forth into Tristram yet? The worms could have easily felled the townsfolk, and it's left us with a myriad of questions. This game has no guards for the cathedral doors, and it's becoming more apparent that something more evil is waiting for us, and the minions of the burning hells seem to be content to guard their dark master and wait for a more opportune time to strike.